A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Mark. On that day, as evening drew on, Jesus said to his disciples, "Let us cross to the other side." Leaving the crowd, they took Jesus with them in the boat, just as he was, and other boats were with him. A violent squall came up, and waves were breaking over the boat, so that it was already filling up. Jesus was in the stern, asleep on a cushion. They woke him, and they said to him, "Teacher, do you not care that we are perishing?" He woke up, rebuked the wind, and said to the sea, "Quiet, be still." The wind ceased, and there was a great calm. Then he asked them, "Why are you terrified? Do you not yet have faith?" They were filled with great awe and said to one another, "Who then is this whom even wind and sea obey?" My brothers and sisters, the gospel of the Lord. So glad that you're all here. I know it's hot out there, and I know there was some traffic because the Hollywood and the carnival and whatnot, all that's going on. So I'm delighted that you all could make it to be here this weekend. This weekend, we're kind of, the whole month is kind of a month of gratitude as the Jesuits withdraw from Blessed Sacrament. And our thematic for the preaching has been a history of grace, a future of hope, trying to locate all of us in between grace and hope. Not a bad place to be, huh? Grace, lots happened and that's been beautiful in the past, and we trust that God will continue to walk with us into the future. We hope that that's where we're going, and we're going to claim that hope as we go forward. I just wanted to start out with a quick story. Some years ago, I was up in northern Idaho at Hayden Lake, which is one of the many lakes up there, and it was August, and the place where I was staying, they had a canoe. And it's kind of a largish lake, not too big. But I thought, it'd be fun to be out on a canoe, right? Canoe. I don't know anything about canoes. I grew up in the desert. And so I thought, a canoe, that'll be fun and easy. It's not that easy, actually. I spent a lot of time trying to get in the canoe, and then it's hard to get out of the canoe, and it's hard to get back in the canoe once you're out of the canoe and you're out in the water. All this stuff I learned, which was fun, huh? And it was great because it was August. It was 90 degrees. So that's fine. I don't mind being in the lake. Wallowing around trying to get back in the canoe, but it's not that easy, right? And the reason I bring that little image up is because we're talking a lot about boats today, and that's an example of a small boat, and I think it's kind of a good metaphor for our lives often. Often we're in a little canoe, and we may or may not be doing it right. It may be a rainbow-colored canoe, who knows? But a lot of the difficulties and challenges are the same. Like how does this thing work and how's it going? And we often think that we should know how to run the canoe, even if we've had no practice in it. We think, well, this can't be that hard. I should know. And then if you don't know and you end up falling out of it a lot and, going to the wrong place a lot, you think I should know more about how this works. And often it's one thing to be in a canoe on a 90-degree day on kind of a quiet lake, but it's not always like that in our life, right? Often there's a lot of turbulence, a lot of rough patches, really rough seas where we just are holding on. We don't even know where the heck the paddle is, right? Often that happens to us. And I know that there are people in this room, because in any room, anytime, there's some of us that are right in the middle of the struggle, right in the middle of wow, these waves just keep getting higher. And it could be because our family is falling apart, or someone that we love is really ill suddenly, or someone's trying to recover from something, or someone somehow cannot get sober, or it's relationships, or our job, or big pieces are kind of weighing us down, the climate, or the government, or who knows what, or violence in the world. All these things can make it pretty rough going in a small canoe. And if that's our experience, we often look to the life of Christ to say, well, how could this actually add value to our lives? How does following Christ actually change our lives? How does it give us something steadier and a direction and meaning? So we have stories like the one we just heard here. And in this particular part of Jesus' life, you'd think there'd be more hopeful, helpful stuff into it, but it's kind of hidden. So Jesus is teaching, right? So he's in a boat. Right before this, he's teaching to a lot of people that are on the bank, right? And he's in a boat, and then he says, hey, let's go to the other side. And so they say, okay, because it's getting dark. And so they start going to the other side, traveling to the other side, to something new, right? Into change, something new. And he helpfully just starts to take a nap. Like he's out, zonked out. And then a storm comes up and they're about to sink. And they panic and they wake him and say, what are you going to do? And he quiets the sea and then says, hey, why do you have very little faith? Don't you believe? Why are you scared? And then they're impressed. That's it. That's the story. It's a weird story, right? It's a weird story because if you're competent or if you're used to getting stuff done, you might think, well, I guess those disciples shouldn't have is the lesson don't wake up Jesus? That can't be the lesson. Aren't we supposed to pray? Aren't we supposed to bother Jesus? Aren't we supposed to say to God, I need help, right? Aren't we supposed to do that? But what's this story about? If he wakes up and he says, why are you scared? Why don't you have any faith? It's a weird story. That can't be the lesson. That can't be the lesson. We're not supposed to bother Jesus. So I think there's some other things in there that might be helpful for us. Let's just take a moment to think about those particular disciples. How bad does the storm have to be for them to wake up Jesus? They are fishermen. They are used to fishing, not only in boats, because it's their boat, right? And it's their lake that they fish on most nights. And it's night, and it has to get pretty bad for them to say, wake up the carpenter who won't know anything. But let's wake him. So it's pretty bad. It's rough. And they do it. I think that's the first lesson we have to hold on to, is they do wake up Jesus. And there are two things that happen, is that they find out that Jesus is God, because only God can stop the weather like that. We heard it in the first read, we heard in the Psalm, we heard that Jesus is God because, another instance, is because he can control the weather. Good. And secondly, that Jesus is God and God is for them. God wants the storms to shift, right? So Jesus is God and God is for them. Two big lessons in that little tiny piece that might be good for us to hold on to. But more importantly, there's a few other things that might be useful, is that it is really important to notice that Jesus is in the boat. And it's Jesus' idea to travel to the other side, into the unknown, to the other side of the lake, right? So Jesus is in the boat and Jesus is going in that direction, right? Those are really important things for us to hold on to. So when you think about your particular boat, what is it that you need to remember? Is Jesus in the boat with you? Did you bother to get in the boat with Jesus? Or is it just you thinking, I'll just do it by myself? Has Jesus set the direction for you? Are you going where Jesus said, let's go here? Have you listened? Have we listened? Have we thought, maybe? Two important questions to ask, right? What's happening? Okay, so that's you personally, that's me personally. That'd be good, that's useful. On another level, the church has, from early on, thought of themselves, somewhat based on this reading, the church has thought of themselves as a ship or a boat. So the bark of St. Peter is kind of a notion that we have of a ship. And even as architecturally, you will know that this part of the church is called the nave, right? The nave, which is the same root as the navy, which is like a boat, right? So it's the nave. Even churches are it says, okay, they're constructed, they look like a ship, right? They look like a ship. So here we are in a ship that we hope that we have Jesus in the ship with us. We're asking the same question. In order to commit to a church or to a parish, we continue to say, Jesus is here in this boat. And yes, Jesus in the Blessed Sacrament. Yeah, absolutely. Jesus every time we gather here. Jesus in the congregation. Jesus in the Word. Jesus in the celebrant. Yet Jesus is in the boat. Good. Now, do we know that this church, this parish, this ship is under the direction of Jesus? I don't know. What's the mission? Are we loving people? Are we moving forward? Are we trying to make disciples? Are we embracing all people? Sounds like, yeah, that we are headed in that direction. And Jesus wants us in that direction, right? So we can count on that. And we can count on all those other things that we have built here. I'm a little on the emotional side, I have to tell you, because this is my last Mass with you all. This is the last one. Next weekend is the last weekend, and we only have one Mass, which is at 11. Big bilingual Mass, only one Mass that weekend. You'll hear that announced again and again. So this is the last chance that I get to be with this congregation, this part of the boat, right? This part of the ship. And to encourage all of us, all of you, to continue forward under the direction of Jesus, knowing that Jesus is in the boat with you as we move forward. I was just reading my diary on what was happening 3 years ago. And I came here kind of August, the first Mass. There were 34 people at this Mass. 34 people. Granted, it was just coming out of COVID, and it was August, and the school had closed like a couple months before, and it's a very different sort of situation. But I would say this boat is headed in the right direction. More and more people finding a place here. More and more young adults understanding they belong. The LGBTQ community understanding, oh, this is a home for us. New people showing up of all stripes all the time saying, oh, I want to be part of this. How do we continue to do that? Relying on God to set the direction and to be with us.